YouTube, once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. It is a beautiful Wednesday afternoon. As always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle. Now, as we reflect over the 2019, maybe even the 2018, 2017 seasons, Gus Malzahn has garnished like a great deal of criticism. I mean, people they question his play calling. They question his abilities as a coach. And at times, all of those criticisms were warranted, to be fair. Now, when we talk about expectations and we talk about, where Auburn has been as a program, I'm not too sure if we could put every marble of blame, so to speak, on Gus Malzahn. Now, from the onset, administrators knew that Gus Malzahn was an inexperienced coach. I'm talking about severely inexperienced. If you're talking about running a Power 5 program, which is right in the middle of somewhat of a transitional stage as far as what the identity and what it takes, because Nick Saban changed the game for all coaches involved. Changed how recruiting was looked at, changed how the general process of running a program, changed that whole thing right before our eyes. Then you have the emergence of teams like Clemson, and now you got Oregon, who looks like they're headed in that same kind of program CEO type direction. Where does Gus Malzahn fit, though? Gus Malzahn comes to Auburn, a Power 5 football team, which is only 3 years removed from a national championship. You're talking about a guy with high school experience as the majority of his career. Few stops as offensive coordinator. His most prized spot was the national championship year at Auburn in 2010. He was there from 2009, all the way up to 2011. Then took on the job at Arkansas State, where he had a lot of success. Won the Sun Belt Conference. Looked like he was well on his way. Now, the only difference between, say, a school like Arkansas State, if you're a coach like Gus Malzahn, you can recruit some relatively talented players for that particular genre of football, and you can be pretty successful. But when you talk about coming to Auburn, you have to look at this thing on a whole different type of level, on a totally different level. Number one, recruiting. Auburn had some pretty good guys left over from the Gene Chizik era, and then the recruiting started to really tell on Gus Malzahn. Now, most of us like to be fooled, and there's a lot of fool's gold out there, because if you look at recruiting classes, you can say, oh, well, we had the number 9 recruiting class in the country, but what you're really not looking at, you're not dissecting the numbers. You're not dissecting the fact that, yeah, you might have had the number 9 recruiting class, but you have 1 or 2 guys at the top that really spike your number up. Then you got some all right guys in the middle, and then you really tank it down at the bottom. And that's kind of what Auburn was doing. Had 1 5-star recruit, 99%. That 1% actually supplemented throughout the class. Next thing you know, you got a number 8 recruiting class. But you got a number 8 recruiting class of a lot of people that will never play. Did Trey Threet play for Auburn? Nope. Rock Thomas, 5-star recruit, probably should have been a little bit more successful at Auburn if he could have gotten rid of that spin move and fumbling the football, because he did have the skill set. I think they got it right. 24/7 actually got it right on Rock Thomas. But either way, from top to bottom, Auburn did not have the personnel, I believe, to compete year in and year out for national championships. That's why you have the good year in 2013. When did Auburn have another good year? 2017. And even then, still going 10-4, losing to Georgia in the SEC championship game. And I just don't think we're being honest. What happens is Auburn starts to get good during the season. And now we're starting to believe like, oh, okay, we have a national championship type team. But what we're not honest with ourselves about is the fact that Auburn, top to bottom, has not had the overall personnel to win championships. That's just my honest opinion. Now, we get to the national championship. Look at how Auburn gets there in 2013. You need to prayer at Jordan Hare. You need to kick 6. You need a comeback from behind against Mississippi State. You need an interception by Robinson Threezy against Ole Miss. You played a game of your life against Texas A&M. If you're looking at it, the ways that Auburn had won games that year, you take away a twist of fate. Alabama, Georgia, actually lost to LSU. Alabama, Georgia. That's 2 right there. That could have been viable losses outside of a twist of fate. Then you look at, say, the Texas A&M game that could have gone either way. That's 3. So you're talking about a national championship year that was very fun to watch, but it wasn't built on anything that could be long-term sustainable. Same way we look at 2017 year. Great year for Auburn. 10-4, beating your rivals, Alabama and Georgia, during the regular season. But a lot of the work that was done there wasn't sustainable. A national championship caliber team does not fold completely with the loss of one running back. That's just my honest opinion. If recruiting was intact, you have guys to replace, and you have guys that can actually carry the torch in the event that something happens. I mean, it shouldn't be a situation where one player gets hurt and the playbook is totally gone. Now, Gus Malzahn, let's ease over to him. Gus Malzahn in 2013 had the personnel to run the type of offense that he likes to run. Number 1, he had very mobile offensive linemen. Number 2, he had relatively large-bodied wide receivers who could block. And he also had a running back in Trey Mason that attacked the line of scrimmage. He had a dual-threat quarterback, legitimate dual-threat quarterback in Nick Marshall, and a very ingenuitive quarterback in Nick Marshall. Now, I'm going to say this. I think Nick Marshall was probably one of the most ingenuitive dual-threat quarterbacks that I've seen. He was fast. He knew what to do with the football. He was very creative. He didn't turn the ball over a lot. And he was very good at the zone read. And not too bad in RPO. Y'all look that up so you can see the difference. I don't have time to explain it right now. Anyway, Gus Malzahn had all the pieces together. Fast forward to 2019. Gus Malzahn's play calling year was a complete flop. Okay. Some say, well, horrible play calling. I tend to agree in situational standpoints. He did not trust anything in the inside the 10-yard line. He just couldn't get it done. I'm not sure, what level of anxiety or stress he goes through down there. But case in point, Big Cat Bryant almost returns a fumble for a touchdown against Oregon, and Auburn couldn't punch it in from the 3-yard line. Auburn was not very good, especially inside the 10-yard line. Play calling selection got real shaky, especially on first and second down. But for the most part, 20-20, Gus Malzahn could get his team down the field. Now, here's some elements I feel that were missing in a Gus Malzahn run offense that was pretty successful. Number 1, mobile offensive lineman. He was very limited as to what he could do as far as creativity with pulling guards, guards being able to get out in front of, screens and things of that nature. Because you didn't see a lot of that this year because he didn't have the personnel to do it. Now, you can say Gus Malzahn is not a good play caller, but you didn't say the same thing in 2013 when he actually had the personnel to do it. That's just my honest opinion. Leave your gripes in the comment section, if you will. Because I know Gus Malzahn is always a touchy subject within the Auburn stratosphere. Number 2, I just don't think he had a running back. I like Boobie Whitlow for the most part, but you need a running back that attacks the line of scrimmage. A running back like Trey Mason that attacks the line of scrimmage. That's trying to he's going to get his every time he touches a football. Okay? I also think if we're really honest with ourselves and looking at the passing, we say Cody Burns can't develop receivers, and that's up for debate, But let's look at the personnel package. Number 1, you got Eli Stowe, who was actually pretty fast, But even during the height of his time there, he wasn't a feature receiver. Most of the time, when you look at Gus Malzahn and what he likes to do in his passing game, he has relatively tall receivers, at least about 6'1", 6'2", that kind of bulky. Didn't have anything like that with Auburn. Auburn, in my opinion, did not have the personnel, wide receiver wise, skill player wise, overall, to mimic the type of play calling that Gus Malzahn was able to do in his past. We're going to talk about this a little later on. The 2020 recruiting class gives Auburn the opportunity to get back to that type of offense. Now, Chad Morris he's going to bring, hopefully, his version of the offense to the table. But either way, you still got to have the guys to execute it. Tank Bigsby definitely got something in him. Mark Anthony Richards will be returning. Of course, you got the experience of Boobie Whitlow and Sean Shivers. On the receiver side, I think Seth Williams gets a little help this year. A lot of pressure on Seth Williams because really he was the only guy that Auburn could depend on for the 50-50 balls. I think about the flag route against Oregon where Will Hastings was essentially open, but Will Hastings is so short, it would have had to been a damn near perfect pass for it to fit in. Especially when you talk about a two deep, you talk about a cover two, and you're trying to sandwich the ball in between a cornerback and a safety, especially in the end zone. It's just not happening. I think it was a bad play call, to be honest, because you don't have enough room to execute it, but that's a whole nother story. But I think Gus Malzahn, overall, given the totality of the circumstance, yes, there was some horrible play calling in there, but I think his personnel handicapped him at times. Once again, it's Kennard Vernon Stewart here for the podcast. We're talking Auburn football. I do know Gus Malzahn is a super sensitive subject among the Auburn fan base. But hey, it's all love. Go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to my channel, your channel, Vernon Speaks Sports Auburn. And as always, it's great to be an Auburn Tiger, War Eagle.